affiliation. Sorry, let me say that again. As you come into the Zoom room, if you wouldn't mind putting your name and affiliation into the chat so we all know who's here. And I think we'll get started. Thank you all for being here. I'm Jill Zignego with the Climate Smart Glacier Country Board. And we really appreciate you coming on to hear what we've got to say. And this is the sixth of a six-part series that we have on zero waste. The rest of the sessions are all recorded and on our website. So feel free to take a look at any of those during the coming weeks, months, etc. We are a nonprofit board, and our goal is to educate and facilitate environmental issues that have to do with climate, and we've chosen zero waste for our project this year, and it's been really, really informative and exciting. So today we've got with us Mitch McKinley from Flathead Industries and Dusti Johnson from the DEQ. We're going to start off with Mitch, who's talking about thrifting and sustainability, trends for reducing our carbon footprints at home. So take it away, Mitch.
All right, let me just share my screen here real quick. All right. Well, I am Mitch McKinley, Flathead Industries. As was introduced, see if I can get this to work. Yeah, so some topics we'll be covering today. Kind of the donation, well, who Flathead Industries is, our donation cycle, what that looks like, just some tips for donating, thrifting and sustainability, and if you have any questions, how to get a hold of us. So Flathead Industries, it's interesting when we talk about thrifting and Flathead Industries. Our mission statement is actually creating opportunities for people with developmental or with disabilities. So our main focus is on that. When we first started in 1974, our day service program was a recycling venture. It was metal recycling, cans primarily. So we've been recycling for almost 50 years now, just in different avenues. I think it was in the late 80s we transitioned to thrifting versus the metals and materials, as you know, larger companies like Pacific Steel kind of took over. There wasn't really much profitability in the venture for us anymore, so we kind of changed our layout and what we did. We support over 240 individuals with disabilities every year, and it's a full circle service. We deal with adults, so the ages of typically 24 and above. We do go down to 18 or 19 after they leave high school, but that comes with its own regulations and so forth. But we do group homes, supported living, job services, life skills, all sorts of different things. And one way that we do the job development side and the community integration side is through our thrift stores. So not only are we a thrift business under our mother organization, but we also provide day services to people with developmental disabilities in our locations. So we do have 4 locations. Our biggest one is here in Kalispell. If you're familiar with Kalispell, you can't miss us. We're at the intersection of US Highway 2 and 89, and it's the old Sportsman's Building. We have a location in Columbia Falls, Whitefish, and just a couple of years ago, we opened up a clearance store, and I'll kind of get a little bit more into why we did that and what our goals were with that. So when it comes to donations, typically we do receive that from people coming to one of our locations and dropping it off. We also do offer a free pickup service. And from there, we basically classify items into two different categories. One is hard goods and one is soft goods. So all of your clothing, fabrics, curtains, stuff like that is what we would consider a soft good, and hard goods is pretty much everything else. What that process looks like for us is at the very beginning, we start our determinations. We have over the years developed a system. We use bins for our sorting. We have different colored bins that go to different locations. So as we're bringing those goods in, we do the hard good, soft good pre-sort. And then from there, we're breaking it down even further into, does this go straight to recycling? Does this go straight to our clearance store, or are we continuing that process out to be like clothing is hung, priced, and then stocked on the floor? Or hard goods, if they're electronics, we do some testing on those to check for functionability, and then pricing, and then out on the floor. If a good makes it to the floor, we use color tags on all of our clothing so that we have basically the month that it was stocked in, and then we rotate through those colors. As a color is ending its life cycle, we put it on a sale and try to move it out the door that way. At the end of that, we pull it and we send it to our clearance store to give it one last shot before it hits the recycling. Unfortunately, we can't recycle everything, so we do end up taking some things to the landfill. As far as what we recycle, what we keep and what we sell, about 65% of the materials that we receive end up not at the landfill. So about 45% of the items do end up going to the landfill. That is one tough thing about taking in donations, is making sure that you do a good job honoring those for the individuals that are donating them and being respectful of them. People don't always bring you stuff that you can use, unfortunately, but we do our best to make sure that we use everything that we do get. So as we get to that point and we are looking at recycling, what are the things we recycled? One big one is paired shoes. We do single shoes as well, or what is called reject shoes, not good quality. Purses, belts, stuffed animals, baseball caps, toys, pots and pans, books, suitcases, Tupperware, and then we got your multimedia, so your CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays, video games, stuff like that, as well as we bale clothing. I think that's been one of our biggest focuses over the last couple of years is how do we make recycling more efficient so that we're not losing money on it. It's something that we've always done. But as the markets got oversaturated, starting about 9 years ago, the prices that you can sell your recyclable materials for plummeted, and it became a no longer profitable industry. It's still something we've always remained dedicated to, but really started figuring out, well, how can we do this better? So one of the big steps we took is getting a baling machine. This is for our clothing. It just compresses the clothing and we can strap it and turn it into big bales. I don't know if you guys have ever seen a clothing bale, but they weigh about 1,000 pounds. So you do have to get some equipment to move them. We do have a forklift and have been using a storage container as far as storage until we have enough for a recycler to come pick up with a truck and send it on to the next stage. That is a big push behind. We are doing some expansion here at our Kalispell store for warehousing, because it is where we do all of our recycling is out of this location. And that will give us a drive-through lane so that we can improve the quality of the donation experience for our customers. It's covered, so they'll be out of the weather. As we know, in Montana, The weather is constantly changing, especially here in the valley. It's like every 5 minutes you can get a new season, but so that'll really help. And just being able to warehouse goods will definitely help us store more so that we can use bigger trucks than we have previously been using, and even let us start exploring other avenues to better utilize the donations that we are receiving. Items that we do not accept are paints, stains, any of your chemicals, tires, non-flat screen TVs, mattresses, unless they're in like new condition, any sort of broken appliances and dishware we can't really do anything with. Again, as I was saying earlier, we do try to be really respectful to our donors. We are not going to go sit out at your vehicle and sort through your things and be like, hey, we can take this and not this. So we do just take everyone's donations as they come in, and then we will sort them out. And that's where a lot of our landfill stuff comes from, is just broken plates, electronics that don't work. You see a lot of interesting things in the thrifting business. But yeah, so I guess that's kind of an overview of that. Other things that we try to do, we have really upped our social media awareness and advertising. Obviously, this is to drive people here for business, try to educate people that they can bring their stuff here, even if it's not necessarily saleable, especially, clothing items and stuff like that, that we can bale and recycle for people and keep that out of the landfill. Books is another one that we see a lot of come in. It is incredible, the different quality of stuff that we do get in. Obviously, the higher the quality, the more revenue we can generate from that, the more impact it has on our programs for the individuals we serve. Just as a general rule of thumb, if you're ever wondering, like, well, why is that priced that way in the thrift store, we do generally keep it around 30 to 35% of the retail value of the product. So we do try to catch those name brands and stuff like that and pull them out. We have different color tagging for those type of items, and they do get priced a little bit higher. But again, it's as a nonprofit, really important to us that as our community donates to us, that we are good stewards of those donations and making sure that we are generating the revenue needed for our programs from that. Excuse me. One thing we've really utilized social media for and trying to engage our customers is a project of the week. Pull a lot of this stuff from like Pinterest. Just look for a fun and interactive do-it-yourself project geared around upcycling. So taking an item that you might not have thought of and creating a artwork or a pot, or there's just so many things that you can reuse things for. So we do that on a weekly basis. Just try to give people ideas of how they can better use the stuff that they have, and that we don't need to go to a store and buy something new when we have it available at our local thrift stores and stuff like that. So kind of the impact that we have here on our local community. We are a local Flathead Valley business nonprofit, and all of our proceeds stay here. We don't have any other locations outside of the valley. We recycle more than 750 pounds of goods yearly, and that is goods that are not going into the landfill. That does not include the poundage of the goods that we do sell. Don't really have a good way to track that, but it is at least another 500,000 pounds of goods through sales that we're keeping out of the landfill as well. One other thing we do is we work with a lot of community partners. The Samaritan House, which is a program for our homeless, our local United Way, Abbey Shelter, other places like that. and do certificates for individuals in need. So if they need to come in and get clothing, or we work with Red Cross if there's a fire. People can come in and get their household goods and needs that they need from us at no cost. We do gift certificates to that to help out in that way. Gosh, I feel like I'm running through this real quick, but with that, here's my contact info, our website. Yeah, I just open it up to any questions, and that usually gives us the best discussion is when you guys ask questions. So I'm here.
Thanks, Mitch. That was great. What I'm thinking is we'll hear from Dusti first, and then we'll do questions for all of us, and people can ask anything they want. Thanks for that. It was real informative. So next up, we've got Dusti Johnson from the DEQ, and she's going to talk about how to identify and safely dispose of household hazardous cleaners and toxic waste and whatever else comes into her mind.
Yeah. Hopefully I can be is
Technology.
first of all, I want to say thank you. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sure. Okay, let me get my screen here from the beginning. Whoops, backspace. All right, hopefully all this works out. First of all, thank you for inviting me this afternoon to talk about toxic waste in our households. I'm very passionate about chemicals that are thrown away improperly for a lot of reasons. My presentation's kind of scattered back and forth because the layout. I wanted to discuss, how these things work. I'll go into how we identify, and then of course, how we should properly dispose of the materials, and if we can't, what happens if we don't properly dispose of them. So what I'd like to start out by, let's just define household hazardous waste in general. Dave Galvin was the one that described household hazardous waste. Basically, it's a leftover or discarded consumer chemical product that has various chemical properties as the same as you would see in industry or even agriculture. One of the things is these chemicals are readily available. You can get them from the grocery store and as well as hardware stores. And they are just the same chemical, just in a different packaged form that are sold to households. One of the things I wanted to go on record to say is this isn't meant to scare anybody. The material that or the chemicals that you buy, they have a use. It's just how we use them and how to maybe in the future stop using things that are as toxic. We classify them under household hazardous waste. EPA and DEQ is we look at anything that's a flammable liquid, toxins, pesticides, fertilizers, anything that's corrosive. Some of these items, just as something that give you get your head wrapped around, something that'd be flammable, believe it or not, is your barbecue lighter fluid, camping fuel, old spent gasoline. And then something that's toxic would be a furniture stripper. And that'll just kind of give you an idea of how those fall into that. This right here is one of the things I wanted to show you. I have this, we have these sitting at our desks at DEQ. I have used these at home, but I work on not producing waste. And if you look here, it says hazards to humans and domestic animals. Something that we use every day, we probably don't think of as being hazardous. Both of these right here were even in my own cupboard at home. I just started looking for items, and when you start seeing words like danger, poison, corrosive, these sorts of things are what I'm talking about that we don't want to have in our landfills or even poured down a drain. Just a tidbit of information. Everybody likes a little bit of tidbits here and there. As an FYI, EPA has estimated 4 pounds a day is what we're using in the United States for household hazardous waste. And disposal is not really an option. That's why I'm here to talk to you today about disposal options and what we can do to keep the products from going to the landfill or down somebody's drain. And what I'd like to go on record to say is that how we look at this is, you're probably wondering, well, yeah, but if I use a comment, let's say to clean my sink, it's going down the drain, but those are in small enough quantities that they're not going to cause a problem. It's when we start throwing the whole can of comment away, or you have a concentration of yourself and your neighbors all throwing these chemicals away. It's where we're going to start having problems. When anytime a product or a chemical is dumped just down the drain, or you throw that away, it can cause what we call leachate. And basically leachate comes from infiltration of moisture going through a landfill, and then it picks up any of these chemicals that are in the landfill, and then it comes out through the bottom, and then they drain that off a landfill. And most of the time leachate can be, it doesn't have as many as the toxins in it if we keep these types of materials out of the landfill. If we don't, then that leachate becomes toxic, not only from a standpoint of going through this your sewer systems in a city, but also the actual landfill. And that's why we try to keep these types of materials out. And then, of course, that's harmful to our drinking water supplies, groundwater, and any kind of environmental or our habitats for animals. And another question I get a lot from people is, well, why don't we have more programs in place? And they're expensive. That's part of it. The economic issues of it can be quite a bit, especially for a landfill. Let's say they dry out their leachate, they have a leachate pond, and they're drying out the leachate, and then it turns to scale, and then they have to, that scale has to be collected and then moved to a household hazardous waste facility, which we don't have in Montana. That's another thing that I wanted to go on record to explain to folks, is we don't have places to send this via landfills or incinerators. And that's where the chemicals are going. They're either being incinerated or they're going to an actual hazardous waste landfill that's sited to be able to handle these types of materials. So let's say we do a collection. I've done a few of these, and on average, they can run a community anywhere from $35,000 to $50,000 to do a collection. And the material is all lab packed into drums, and then those drums are shipped off. And each one of those drums can cost about $1,100. So that's why these things grow in the economics of it and can be costly. And so I get a lot of questions of people calling me on the phone. Well, what can I do? What can I do to help? Or what can we do to not produce these types of items, and meaning chemicals? And of course, I try to tell people avoid buying them in the first place. And I know that's difficult, but for instance, as far as drain cleaner, we can use a plunger, we can use a snake to clean out our drains. We don't have to use that harsh chemical of drain cleaner because it has a lot of toxics in it. And one of the things that I've come up with is using Dawn dishwashing soap. I'll pour that down my drain once in a while and run hot water, and it helps take the oils that come from different products that we use. It helps keep those drains open. If you just find yourself that let's say you're gonna move, or you just don't want this product anymore in your cupboard, wherever you're storing it, you can find a way to donate it to another person, might be able to use it, another organization. I've had a lot of fertilizer that I've dealt with, that I've had the garden clubs have used it up. folks like that. So we have to always think outside the box to get some of these materials or these chemicals used. And another thing too, I want to stop and talk about a little bit is that it's not just a chemical. It's not something that you have underneath your kitchen sink or wherever you store these cleaning products. It can be a mercury thermostat, fluorescent lighting, batteries. There's a lot of these items too that we're not aware of that have toxins in them as well. And then that's where the mailback programs come into play. That can really help. There's quite a few of them out there that I'll note here later that I have on the slide that'll show you how to send them back, and so that way they're not getting into our landfills. One of the websites that I really like is the EPA Safer Choice. You can go out there and they have a really great program showing which chemicals you can use that we call green chemistry or green cleaning products, and that you can phase the products you're currently using into a safer choice for your household. And that I think is a really great resource. They also have things on that that website, and I was going to click on it to show you, but the last time I did it bogged down the presentation. So I just thought I'd share it with you this way. They have how to reduce, eliminate it to begin with. And then if you decide to change out one of your old thermostats, they have mercury in them, and they have the thermostat recycling program to take those back. If you just go to this website, you put your zip code in, it'll tell you which organizations or businesses will take your thermostat back. If you do have other items that have mercury in them, your old school thermometers have mercury in them. And so I don't know why, but some people just have little jars of mercury. Veolia is the best option to send those back, and they have a take back program for that. Mercury is very difficult to and expensive. If we do have a program, if we do a household hazardous waste program to take it back. And so I try to tell people it is going to cost you to have that taken back in a collection event. And I know I talked really fast. It's not a big subject. It's just what to do with the products can be difficult. You can call me as well. I tend to be on the phone a lot with people throughout the state, trying to help them find a way to deal with their I hate to call it hazardous waste. I don't like to scare people, but the chemicals in their home that they want to dispose of properly. One of the reasons that I tell people over and over again is paint is another one, that because we don't take liquids in the landfill, or at least we're not supposed to. And paint is a big one, and that I get calls about. And I try to tell people that if you can dry it out, you can also dispose of it that way. If it's bad paint to begin with, if it's usable paint, there's lots of people that will use it up. It's paint's expensive right now. I don't know if you've gone to the paint store, but it has a pretty good cost to it. So I'm sure somebody can retint it, or maybe the color they would like, and get it reused. In some of my collection events, I did a big paint collection over in Miles City. We had so much paint that it ended up being close to, I'd say, 55 gallon drums full of it. That's a lot of paint. And when we ended up mixing it together, it made a battleship gray color. And that actually was able to be reused as primer. So if you can come up with ways to reuse the product for its intended purpose, is the best before you throw it out. And then if you, here's my contact information, you can call me anytime, and I would be more than happy. I also, if you call the office and I'm not in, my cell phone's on there. I get back to people pretty quickly for help. And believe it or not, I've dealt with a lot of really nasty chemicals that people have sitting around in their homes. But that's what I'm here here for, is to help you find a way to get it taken care of properly. So if you have any questions, kind of like Mitch said, please ask, because that's how we all learn. Thank you.
Thanks, Dusty. That is great, great stuff. And we can start it out. We've got some questions in the chat here. This one from Mitch. Does Flathead Industries partner with folks who recycle non-functioning electronics like e-waste recycling out of Missoula?
Well, we have in the past. We've used two different businesses. Both of them went out of business because of the cost associated with electronic recycling. So I just haven't found another partner. I'll actually write down that company if they are still in business and give them a call and check it out. A lot of time, you know, how much does that cost can always be a big hindrance. One thing that we found that's been successful in the past is kind of doing a roundup for it. So we've worked with e-cyclers in the past where like they'll drop a trailer, we'll kind of be like the drop point, and you know, the unusable stuff will fill up a trailer full for them and send that on for recycling. But it has been a while since we've been able to do that. So I will definitely take down that waste recycling service in Missoula and try to get a hold of them and see what we can do with that. So.
Excellent. Here's another one for you, Mitch. Where do the bales of recycled clothing go?
Yeah, that's everyone wants to know that. We send ours to Seattle. There used to be two separate recyclers we used to use. There was one in Thompson Falls and one in Billings. Both of those companies went under when the big drops in the market. It's something that we saw quite frequently from 2008 through 2019. We did lose a lot of those larger recyclers that you could send to. Ours is out of Seattle, a company called, what do we got here? Buffalo Exports LLC. And what, kind of depends on what they can do. They definitely go through and see if there's anything they can bulk sale themselves. And then from there, it'll get sold to China or India per pound to either be recycled or resold. So yeah, it's a crazy market. It goes through a lot of hands. So
great. And here's one for Dusty. Does Habitat for Humanity take paint?
I would say you should call them first before and make sure the paint is in good usable condition. Some of them do, yes. Some of the businesses that do the restores and those places have been taking paint back, but it can be overwhelming for them. They can get way too much paint, believe it or not, and then they'll stop taking it. So it's just whatever community you're in, you need to work with whoever's, your Habitat Humanity, or like I said before, if you can have a paint collection and make it into the battleship gray color. I've seen I don't know, the City Works folks will use it for things, stuff like that. Just try to think it through, but I definitely would ask them before you just showed up with it, or call,
Good idea.
one, just on the paint subjects, like one thing we do, like I know we say we don't accept paint. We do get donated a lot of paint anyways. We partner with the landfill. They do a paint roundup once a month. So we will hold and store the paint that we do receive. And then once a month, take it to the landfill. And I do think they do the drying and disposing at that. They just don't take it all the time so that they can have the proper equipment there to handle it. So here in Flathead County anyways, you can recycle your paint at the landfill once a month. So.
Okay.
And to add to that, you're lucky. To add to that real quickly, you're lucky because the landfill actually has a hazardous waste program. So they can take back household hazardous waste, you know, at the Kalispell landfill, but a lot of communities have that ability.
Sort of on that note, this is a great question from Cora to Mitch. Do you partner with the landfill to refurbish, resell items that are salvaged from the landfill?
Once it's at the landfill, it's at the landfill. They don't let us touch anything. We do. Our Flathead County is an amazing partner for us. They work with us quite a bit. Like I said, we do tire drop-offs once a month. We do the paint drop-offs once a month, and they are excellent partners as far as, you know, rates that we get charged and everything like that. So they are a huge help for us to be able to accept those donations and make sure things are properly disposed of. But when it comes to the landfill itself, once it's there, they don't let anyone touch it. You can actually get charges filed if you take anything while you're dropping stuff off. So it's they take it pretty serious.
But that doesn't include the shopping areas that they call the grain bins, right? In Big Fork, or only the rest of the, don't they call those places shopping markets? Has anybody heard that?
They might have some areas in those where they can drop off for communal, but I know that like the one in Columbia Falls actually had to hire someone to sit on site and make sure. The problem you run into is people just dig through all the containers and then they'll take stuff out and leave it out, and the labor costs to try to clean that up and, you know, get it to where it needs to go is huge. So I do know that they do strongly discourage people from going through the green bins, at least in Columbia Falls. But I do know that some other communities are considering hiring people to watch them. So,
right. Too bad. Too bad. And here's a good one for you, Mitch. I've read about trends for young adults that are doing more thrifting. Have you seen this trend in Flathead County?
Yeah, that's yes, we have. That's actually where we focus. I'd say about 90% of our marketing efforts is social media and targeting that 18 to 35-year-old group, because a big part of it's just education. And one thing that you really start seeing trend-wise is people don't want to wear the same thing that other people wear, you know. And if you end up going to a Target or we don't even have any stores anymore. JCPenney's, I think, is still around. But you end up getting the same outfits as everyone else, you know, or Costco or anything like that. Where when you're thrifting, it really is a true expression of your individuality. You get to come in, you're buying one-of-a-kind items. That's one really cool thing we see here in the Valley is I'll see the same people at all three of our stores. Like when I, do my rounds and are checking out, see how things are going. I'll see the exact same customers. And the reason is no thrift store is the same as another, because you have a completely different donation pool. So what we get in Whitefish, brand wise, quality and all that is different from Columbia Falls, is different from Kalispell. So it really is a unique shopping experience at every location.
Cool. Okay, we've got a hand up here with Jeremy who wants to ask you a question himself. So hit it, Jeremy.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. I wanted to follow up on the question that was asked about the clothes and where they go. I'm curious also where the markets are for the other materials that you said are recyclable. What's the end use for that stuff? Do you know where they go and how they're recycled? Like I guess the CDs and DVDs and Blu-rays and the other sorts of non-soft goods.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that the recycler does is check quality. And I think they sell bulk to resellers. So like your used book market, that is something that we're hoping to be able to get into, is maybe we can become an Amazon used book provider. Because, we just don't move them enough in our store. We do have a nice library section, but, the number of people that are coming in there to shop used versus online is, there's a big difference. So A lot of the stuff is resold as is. Like I know shoes typically are just wholesaled to countries in like Africa and India, where they'll just buy them stock and then they'll, that's why they want them paired, is so that they can just resell them or give them out to, you know, people in need. There's a lot of organizations out there that try to, you know, provide shoes for, you know, third world countries and literacy programs and stuff like that. So they will buy bulk used shoes and stuff like that and then distribute. So that's what's really important on our part, that when we are storing these, that we are putting them in the right spot, you know. So when we do have those paired shoes that are still usable, you know, we're separating those from the ones that aren't, so that when the wholesaler has the opportunity to sell it, you know, they don't have a ton of labor on their end to get it in the right hands.
Yeah. Just a quick follow-up on that. Do you know if any, I know that like the clothing market is a global thing. Are any of the end use markets domestic for the stuff that's coming out on the recycling side?
It costs too much to recycle in America, to be honest with you. The process is pretty labor intensive, so it all does get shipped overseas. And as far as cost goes, that's why we do try to sell everything that we can. And that's actually, so I don't know if I even touched on it. We never used to have a clearance store, and just kind of the idea behind that is we do not sell anything over $1 in that store, even if it's furniture. So everything is $1 or less. And we actually do a what is it, a 33-gallon yard black bag that people can buy for $10. So you can put anything you want in that bag and you get it for $10. And really our whole goal behind that is like, let's get that in people's hands. Like we have people that come in like, hey, like, I need stuff. It's like, we got a great place for you. You know, you can go to our clearance store and you can buy a year's worth of clothing for $10, you know. And like I said, we work with community partners as well. If someone's truly in need, we'll just give them a gift certificate there and let them fill up a bag and go on their way. But yeah, we wanted to limit our waste and how much we are recycling. You know, let's try to sell it here locally and use it locally before we send it on its way. And that was kind of the whole idea behind the clearance store. Like, I can be honest with you, we do not make a lot of money there. Right. Our goal is to break even and get the product in the hands of the people who need it. So
that's an awesome thing. That clearance store idea is great. I have two other kind of related things, if I could have a couple more minutes.
Absolutely.
Super,
Go
thanks.
for it.
Well, one is kind of along those lines, and in terms of like the value of the stuff, have you ever considered partnering with the landfill on like a recovery sort of setup? Like some places have resource recovery parks on the way to the landfill or at the landfill, where the stuff of value is kind of extracted before it goes up the hill. And that could be a place where good stuff that's going to the dump is captured. Again, it's a big program, right? There's a lot of considerations, but if you already have an operation where you're selling the stuff that's of low value and meeting your costs, it could make sense to explore an operation where you're capturing stuff that is higher value that goes to your regular store. Just something to throw out there. And then the other thought I had was in terms of the e-waste recycling, have you ever considered partnering up with other large generators like Flathead Valley College or other folks in the area that you could pool the resource so you have a larger amount of material that might make more sense for a recycler?
Yeah, in the past, we've done that. That's where they've brought in those trailers. We do partner with a couple different organizations and try to fill that trailers, because you do have to pay to have that come in and all that. So, it is something that I need to look into and do a little bit more frequently. It was just kind of a hard hit because we had a partner in Missoula that was recycling it for us, that we were sending it to, and they were breaking it down and doing a great job. But as that market crashed as well, they weren't able to stay open. So
right,
that's kind of a big hit for us. And just not having anyone local, it's really tough to store that amount of goods. Like, we kind of had to pick, which one did we want to pursue, and that's where we went with the baling and the clothing. But again, that is why we're doing the renovation on our main store. We're adding that warehouse space is to really open up those opportunities for us to, we're always trying to get better, and we're always like, we want to honor our community and our donors and what people give us and make sure that all that's being put to good use. And part of that is recycling, and making sure that it gets in the right spot. So having that opportunity to look into those avenues again is going to be really huge for us. So hopefully here in the next month, that's where we'll be.
Just two quick follow-ups on that e-waste thing. It could be that Oreo's Refining is the company that was mentioned earlier in Missoula. And then another possibility is Derek Canwisher at UM. He's the industrial materials recycling manager there. He's the one who oversees all their e-waste, and they have a lot of it, and they've got a system and a partner set up. So he might be a good resource for you.
Yeah. Well, what was his last name again? Derek
Canwisher with a K. Kanwischer. I'll type it in the chat. I think
Okay.
I got it right when I just said it.
And Jeremy, I noticed that you are with Strategy Zero Waste Solutions in Missoula.
Yeah.
Since we've got some extra minutes here, what do you want to tell us about what you all are doing?
Oh, sure. It's a small, meaning me, zero waste consulting firm based here in Missoula. I've been working in this field for more than 10 years. I kind of got started in California when I lived out there, and worked at Home Resource for over 5 years, led the zero waste movement here in Missoula during that time. And now I'm working with a kind of a nationwide team of consultants doing zero waste consulting in different communities across the country. Locally, I'm working now with the Missoula County Public Schools on expanding zero waste programs across the schools based on the success of our pilot program in 2019 at one of the elementary schools here.
Excellent. Keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, here's a question for Dusty. Will cleaning services accept household cleaning projects or products that you might not need or want to get rid of if you are moving?
Well, that's a good lead, I mean, I think it's a good idea. You could call them and ask. I think one of the biggest issues with a company is the liability of using a product from somebody, as long as you could show that there's nothing wrong with it and it's not going to, cause any problems for them. I think they should use it, or, could use it. The way the rule stands is that as long as the chemicals used for its intended purpose, then the crossover, they wouldn't get in trouble, through their license to be able to reuse that. And then I'm hoping that a lot of the cleaning services I know are starting to move into more green chemistry. So it's a great idea, and thinking outside the box to use up those chemicals. So give it a try is what I'd say.
Well, and I have an answer too for that, as well as shampoo, conditioner, even bottles that are used, is places like the Samaritan House accept everything, cleaning supplies, anything that you have that has been used, they take it gladly. So that's a good one too.
Yeah, it's like I said before, to look at your local organizations to see who can use up the products before, taking them to the, or taking them to the, for instance, in the Flathead, you have the household hazardous waste that you can take to the landfill, but the cost of that, and to know that it's going to be incinerated and buried again anyway, I would rather see it used for its intended purpose than have that happen to it.
Good idea. Good idea. So it looks like we don't have any other questions. And what we were thinking to close out with is we have a few board members here that throughout the process of the zero waste webinars is if anybody wants to say something about what they have taken, their takeaways, if you will, from the Zero Waste series. Casey, our fearless president, would you like to offer?
Hi, yeah,
Oh, there
so
she is.
thanks. Yeah, it's been a great series, and if anyone hasn't been able to attend any of the sessions before, I know Jill mentioned it already, but there's been some great info presented, and they're all online on our website. I would just recommend checking them out. I thought some of the innovators were really cool, seeing what's happening, new ideas, different things that are happening, but also just getting the groups together to brainstorm and think about options, right? Like for me, making small changes at home, right? Using solid shampoo bars to have less waste, right? Refillable containers for soaps and hand wash, dishwashing soap, laundry detergent tabs, just small things like that are nice thing to do, but also thinking about the big picture of, okay, what's going on and where does it start, right? Starting at the producers and having waste at that level, and what we locally can do about it, or how we can think about things differently. So yeah, I think it's been a great series, and gotten a ton of great information, and I think I'll turn it over to another board member at this point.
Okay, who's next?
Well, this is Kate. I don't see any other board members on here, so I'll go, and then Jill will let you wrap it up. But I think the value of this series is, we wanted it to be educational. We wanted it to be information sharing, and we've done that. We've learned a lot across industry sectors from what other communities are doing, things that you can do at home, and that's been fantastic. But I think the real value of this will be what we do after the series is over. The connections that are made. I mean, Jeremy suggesting contacts for Mitch, if we can help make those connections. Any projects that you might want to take on either at home or with your employer or an institution, that you work with. If we can see projects actually come out of this, I think that would be the real value of it. And we would like to hear about it too. I mean, we put a newsletter out, we have social media that we promote things that are going on in the community. So if you're doing a zero waste, heard something on these webinars, and you said, you know what, I'm going to go back to my business and we're going to start doing that, send us an email and we'll post it on our website. We're looking for case studies and best practices, and we really want to see these webinars be a foundation for doing things in the future. Climate Smart has worked with farmers, the Whitefish Farmers Market, to do a zero waste farmers market. And we're hoping a project that comes out of this is to work with other farmers markets or small farm producers to do a zero waste project with them. So we don't think that this is our last webinars in the series, but this isn't the end of zero waste. We want projects to come out of this, and we want to hear about what you're doing. So that's my comment.
Excellent. Okay, before I give my last words, I had another question for Mitch, and that is about your other services. I know the thrifting and the sustainability are great, but I also wondered, I know you've got lawn care, and wondering if during this time of limited workers out there, seems like having workers has been the biggest challenge lately after the pandemic, or are we still in the pandemic? Wondering about your other services, what you can tell us about those.
Yeah, so like I said, we do job services, just kind of in general. Our thrift stores are great opportunities for our folks to learn, but everyone has a different capability. So Other services that we do offer for some groups of our individuals is the ability to participate in lawn care. So a lot of mowing, weeding, stuff like that, and snow removal. And then we do firewood for our community. So we partner with Stoltz, who's a great partner. They do a fantastic job with forest thinning versus clearing. So really excited to be working with them to cut, chop, deliver firewood. So that's really a cool program. We have been hit by the staffing plague, I guess. I think everyone can call it. It's been a challenge. It's kind of limited what we could do in that arena. Just all the talking about cleaning products actually reminded me, we actually have another facility. It's called a life skills program. It's where individuals are kind of more working on their social interaction and behavior to be able to come into a workplace. But one thing that they actually work on is we call it rag cutting. So we provide them with cotton shirts, typically non-colored, from our thrift stores, and they cut them, and we do large bags of rags. And you'd be shocked like how many oil replacement, Speedy Lubes and all that buy rags from us. We get painters that buy rags from us. We've got furniture makers that buy rags from us. So instead of them having to buy, brand new rags and all that, they buy our used ones that we have cut to size for them. So that's just, I know that we're kind of like a unique service. So, I mean, that is something we do for those guys so they can generate a little income for themselves and start working on those work skills. But talk about a service for your community where you're repurposing those, that clothing. And sometimes, we got stuff that we can't even recycle, that we could turn into those rags. And yeah, I mean, we sell, probably 10 pounds of clothing every day that is just specifically for that, for the painters and the oil replacement guys and all that to use, instead of paper towels and, those shop towels and stuff that they buy. So yeah, it's been a great partnership there as well.
Excellent. And it sounds like you guys really are interested in what the community has to say. And if anybody had ideas or partnership possibilities, they could just come to you and discuss them.
Yeah. And I just wanted to throw out another idea because you mentioned that dishware is not recyclable. I was at a nonprofit event in St. Ignatius. And a lot of times when you go to these 5K runs or whatever, they give you a mug, a souvenir pint glass or something for afterwards. They got all their pint glasses and everything from the thrift store. And they said, if you don't want it, put it back in here. We'll reuse it for our next, 5K run. But everything else, all the plates that they got for the meal that was afterwards, all came from the thrift store. And then they were just recycling it and using it that way. So I think maybe just sort of, if we can, again, reach out to the nonprofits and say, hey, instead of ordering new pint glasses, just go. And they were all unique. And I think everybody really enjoyed, like you were saying, they all liked getting a unique pint glass from, from someplace.
Yeah, and like one big advertisement that we run is really targeting weddings. You talk about centerpieces, getting mason jars and old wine glasses and stuff like that. Using actual silverware at the wedding event instead of plastic forks and stuff like that, plates, that you can then return or throw away if you want to. A lot more recyclable than all that plastic material. So we do really try to advertise that. That's why, I talked a little bit about our do-it-yourself projects that we do on our social media. Really just trying to, inspire people to do more, because like when you talk about plates, yeah, they're not recyclable as far as like we're concerned. But gosh, I mean, if you want to do a big art project in a community and work on mosaics, I mean, buy a bunch of plates from a thrift store, break them all, and then create some beautiful art from it. So there is so many ways that we can upcycle the stuff that we have. We just try to do it through an education thing, through social media and all that. But yeah, and that's a great point. Maybe I need to work a little bit more with like Calico Art Center or Stubtown Art and be like, hey guys, like you guys want to put something on, we'll give you material and you guys can do like community art projects and stuff like that with it, and really kind of help further that education for people and what they can do with, instead of throwing stuff away, how we can reuse it. So
That's a great idea. And we just saw a wonderful note from Amy Robinson about her refillery program. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Amy? I haven't heard about it.
Yeah, thanks. Here, let me turn my video on so you guys can see me. Hi. Yeah, I just started this small business. It's just getting going. Purchased some products, been testing, and so ready to start distributing. Essentially, it's a program where you bring your existing container and I will fill it up. So I'll do delivery or meetup because I don't have a storefront, but we'll see if we can get there. And this kind of just started because I had my daughter a couple of years ago. And so my own zero waste journey sort of evolved into something greater as I was using more waste. And it's just a really hard thing to do, right? Not use all those bottles and packaging. So here's something that I needed, and I'm hoping others care about it enough as I do, and Whitefish in Columbia Falls to take advantage of it. So support me if you're interested and spread the word. Thank you.
So it's Pantry Collective NW.com.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll see all the lineup of my products there, and you can reach out to me there as well.
Okay. Sounds really good.
Yeah.
And that dovetails perfectly with, although everything that Casey and Kate said is all true about our previous webinars have all been so informative and interesting. And I think my biggest takeaway are, there's a website called zerowastehome.com/BEA. And it's a woman who has, her claim to fame is she has a jar about this big that is her year waste. So that's really interesting if you all want to check her out. I don't know that any of us will be that successful, but it's certainly a noble attempt. And the other one that's interesting is goingzerowaste.com by Catherine Kale. And she's an Instagram influencer, and one of our other board members, Katie Wallace, turned me on to her, and she has great ideas about going zero waste. And it's just so exciting that it has become a mode for influencers to get on board with. So I hope that we all take this to heart and do everything we can as far as choosing less toxic supplies, going more organic, more natural with cleaning. I mean, let's face it, vinegar, baking soda, and water is amazing and good for the environment. So basically, I just want to thank everybody that's been involved with the whole zero waste program. It's been really exciting to work on. And if y'all are interested in helping Climate Smart stay relevant, we're happy to accept any donations. Easy to do on our website. And keep an eye out for the next project that we come up with. But most of all today, I thank Dusti and Mitch for being a part of it and sharing your wonderful knowledge. So y'all take care. Oh, we do have a raffle. We have a raffle at each webinar. And it's interesting that we spoke with Amy today because she did win last month's and I hadn't heard back. So do contact me so I can give you yours. And this month we have chosen Jennifer Bernosky. And if you could send me your email, that would be great. Jennifer.
Oh, I will. Thank you so much. That's so exciting. I never win anything.
There you go. Congratulations.
Thank you so
And-
much, everybody.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. We really appreciate you.
I'm wondering if I could just mention
Yes.
a couple things before we all take off, because it might be of interest to the folks here.
Yes.
Self-selected into a zero waste interest. I shared some links in the chat. One is to zerowasteusa.org, which is the national affiliate of the Zero Waste International Alliance. And I'm an instructor for that organization. And there's a series of introduction to zero waste classes going on right now. The last one was on Friday. The next one's in January. It's a really great opportunity to learn all about the zero waste stuff, from the zero waste lifestyle things that we've been discussing to the systems approach to zero waste and all the different pieces in between. So take a look at that. Also, I'm one of the organizers for the Zero Waste Conference, the National Zero Waste Conference coming up in December. There's a link on that. All the so many speakers from across the country talking about the latest stuff going on in terms of recycling infrastructure, reuse systems, policy, food waste, things like that. Really great. People from around the world are involved in that. Also for facilities, for folks that, and I'm wondering if Flathead Industries might qualify for this. I'm not sure, but as part of like the LEED program, LEED certified, the Green Building Certification Institute or something. I can't remember what that acronym GBCI stands for, but they have something now called TRUE, which is Total Resource Use and Efficiency. And it's a certification program for facilities who are moving towards zero waste. And there's a ton of them out there. On the link I shared, there's projects from across the country there. And a couple of reuse reports that came out recently that Mitch, you might, if you haven't seen, you might want to share with folks, because it really shows the value of the kind of work that you're doing, supporting reuse in communities. Austin, Texas, through their reuse and recycling economy, calculates that it's been valued at over $1 billion since they started working on these kinds of things. And in Minnesota, Reuse Minnesota published a report last year that showed the impacts of the reuse economy across the state there. And it's huge. I know it's hard for organizations such as Flathead Industries to take the time to calculate what those impacts are, but these resources might help in sort of spreading the story about the effectiveness of those kinds of programs. Just wanted to throw that out there, everybody. Thanks for putting these webinars together. I'm going to go back into the archives and check out the ones that I missed.
Excellent. And Kate just did a gentle reminder for me to let everybody know that the reason we were able to put on this webinar was due to the generosity of the Whitefish Community Foundation. So
Awesome.
Thank you to them as well. And yeah, let's keep it on. Zero waste.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.